Back in July of last year, we had a few high-impact monsters added into secret dungeons. But what are secret dungeons, and why do they matter? That's the title of the video that you already clicked on. So, I guess you want to know. Secret dungeons. This is where you can get summoning pieces of specific monsters. There are very few things in life that are guaranteed. So if you see one of these things pop up and it's for a monster you need, you better farm it. Secret dungeons can be found by clearing attribute dungeons in Kairos, crafted in the craft building, or in chat. If you see someone found a secret dungeon, you can send a request to enter. They're open for 1 hour, but during that time, you can farm to your heart's content. And on each run, you'll get pieces for victory. And over time, those will add up to monster summons. And you don't want to just grab one, right? Because monsters need skill ups. So the more you summon, the more you can power up the skills of the monster that you're actually going to be using. And now, why do they matter? Secret dungeons are one of the most effective ways to get some of the best farmable monsters in the game. And it turns out there are quite a few highlight monsters. So today, instead of just doing a countdown list, I'm going to go through every element and talk about the most important ones. Now, I really want to get that point across. I'm just going through the most important ones for new players. So I'm not saying that the ones that aren't in this video aren't fun to build or good to use. I'm just saying that I'm trying to keep the runtime of this video manageable. And I don't want to overwhelm anyone. So even though I don't mention Amon the Light Bearman or Cha-Cha in Friends, that doesn't mean I don't like them. In fact, if I don't mention someone that you think is really cool, please leave them in a comment down below. All right, without further ado, let's get into the elements. We'll start off with fire. Colleen is one of those monsters that you could just get in the magic shop. But I figured I'd put her in the video because she is an important monster. She has a second awakening. You can use her in places like Necro or raids. And so even though you can get her in the shop, it might be worth it to get one and more for skill ups here. Colleen is one of the few monsters in the game to provide a 3-turn attack buff and heal on a skill with a 3-turn cooldown. So that means functionally you could have attack buff up all the time if Colleen's on your team. Not bad for a 2-star. Also not bad for a 2-star is Tatu, the Fire Pixie. Tatu is best known for her ability to detonate dots once you second awaken her. She had a pretty impressive run in dungeons, and her domination in Kairos leads me to believe that she is entirely responsible for why the Abyss bosses are immune to dots. Nowadays, you can still use her in Trial of Ascension alongside a dot comp, though you admittedly don't need a Tatu. She's the most optional unit on the team, but she's still pretty cool. Significantly less optional, it's Spectra, the Fire Griffon. Spectra's got the control you need on skill 3, the slow, the attack break, attack bar pushback, and big damage on skill 2. On the channel, we've recommended Spectra as part of the starter Dragons team, and I still use Spectra as part of my free-to-play team for clearing Trial of Ascension hard. Last of the fire ones we'll cover today, it's Sath, the Fire Grim Reaper. Once he's second awakened, Sath has a passive that will double dot damage. Now that effect is symmetrical, so any dots on you are going to be dealing double damage too, but if we're being honest, that rarely comes into play. Why you'd want a Sath on your team is because he is exceptional for clearing the in-between floors on Trial of Ascension, meaning just non-boss floors. No matter how high their HP gets, percentages are always going to be percentages. Throw on 5 dots that last for 2 turns and detonate them with Tatu, and you're just going to watch those waves melt. Starting us off in the 2-star slot, it's Konamiya the Water Garuda, another monster that you could just get in the magic shop, and you should. There are so many avenues to get 2-star monsters that it's slightly less important that you prioritize a secret dungeon for Konamiya, but I'd be remiss not to mention Kona, considering that he just made an appearance in both our Teshar Speed Team Guide as well as the Kyle Speed Team Guide on the channel. Kona can also be a consideration for new players who are trying to break into raids. Considering the bird offers a full team cleanse on an active skill, that makes him the perfect pairing for a raids team. Next up, it's Vigor the Water Werewolf. Once he's second awakened, Vigor ends up becoming a bit of a toolbox. He has a 3-turn defense break on skill 3. He's got a speed buff with heal and anti-crit on skill 2 and a heal block on skill 1. So that makes him a menace in siege, and he's incredibly useful in R5 because all of those buffs and debuffs he provides are really important there. Next up, Wind. Naomi the Wind Martial Cat. Naomi has gotten a lot of coverage on the channel, and for good reason. Once you second awaken her, she'll have a passive that auto crits so long as there's a debuff on her target. That means you can load her up with crit damage and she'll throw out huge numbers even with no crit rate. And that's something that I'm like really into these days, is monsters that remove that crit rate burden. So, you know, I've talked about Byung-Chul recently, I've talked about Teshar a lot recently for exactly the same reasons. You can just stack up the crit damage and they'll do the rest. Naomi also offers a brand on skill 2 and a stun on skill 1. With her whole kit in mind, you could probably see why she mostly sees play in Giants as well as the Water Rift Beast. Both places where you need to deal significant damage to water bosses. Really, is that all in Wind? I guess that's it for Wind, at least for this video. But we still have 2 more elements to cover, and they are by far the biggest in terms of quantity of highlights. The first we'll be covering in the light category is Belladeon the Light Inugami. Belladeon is such a good dog. It's actually mind-blowing. Heal and attack bar boost on skill 3, a smart strip on skill 2, and a defense break on skill 1. A long time ago, the head developer of Summoner's War once told me that Belladeon was his favorite monster, and I totally see why. Nowadays, Belladeon really is the most important for new players who are trying to break into Giants B10 or Giants Abyss. In fact, Belladeon does appear in our starter guide for Giants Abyss. Over the course of your Summoner's War journey, you might outgrow Belladeon. And that's okay. His main role is to make you safer in the beginning, when you don't have that many damage options. But we'll always remember what Belladeon did for us when we were breaking into GB10. Thanks, Bella. You are still like the best dog in the game, dude. And there's actually some steep competition for that. Have you seen like Crow and Ikaru as well, and like Rauk? There are so many good dogs in this game. Darion, the Light Vagabond, is the next one we'll cover. Darion is all about reducing the amount of damage that you and your allies are taking. Him though, he's gonna take more damage. it's part of his passive. Darion's first and second skills say something, but it's really about his passive. That's really it. I think he's got a defense break. That's pretty awesome, actually. Darion's best content is by far R5 and arena defense. In fact, I'm actively using Darion on my arena defense right now. And in R5, you can run Darion in one team, Dias on another, and then you have 2 different sources of reducing damage. Moving right along, it's Lyn the Light Amazon, who is one of the most recent additions to Secret Dungeons. Lyn is incredibly straightforward. It's big max HP damage on every single one of her 3 skills. Her third skill also does way more damage against bosses because they can't be stunned. Lyn was kind of the starting point for that whole philosophy of if they are immune to some portion of the skill, then you get a different benefit. Like we've seen something similar pop up with the Water Magic Order Guardian recently. And I'd like to think that he has Lyn to thank for that. Dang dude, the light section is poppin', because the next one is Shamann the Light Griffon. Shamann has the same skill too as his brother Spectra, but he has the benefit of being element neutral. So that means you can run him in more places, but if you happen to bring him up against something that is dark, then he'll get 100% damage boost. But with that element neutrality in mind, that means you can use him in every single one of the main 3 Kairos dungeons. Giants, Dragons, and Necro. I actually use him on both speed teams that have been on the channel recently. Run him like a damage dealer and you'll have a great time. The last light monster is Loren. If you take one thing away from this video, it's get Loren as soon as humanly possible. Loren has a forbidden combination of game mechanics on her passive. Defense break and attack bar reduction. They wouldn't let Shina have it. They took it away from Shina, and Loren is the only place that this seems to be allowed to exist. Well, I say that, but Belladeon's skill 1 technically reduces attack bar, but it's not the same. He only reduces it down by like 15%. Loren tries to reduce it by 20%. 3 times. That's a 60% attack bar reduction on skill 1 alone. Anyway, I'm trying to say it's rare. That's all I'm trying to say. Loren also has a slow on skill 1 and a heal block and strip on skill 2. She's an incredible unit and she'll get you through some places in the game that you maybe shouldn't have been able to clear on your own. Loren is one of my favorite units in the game and you can use her almost everywhere. Dungeons, Trial of Ascension, RTA, wherever. The final element, Dark. Starting us off, it's Thrain, the Dark Grim Reaper. Thrain applies dots on a non-hitting skill and has crowd control on skill 3. Thrain's really good at applying dots and cycling through turns. So if you get a Thrain, you may want to use him on that same team with his brother Sath and Tatu to clear waves in Trial of Ascension. I have seen people use him in RTA. Doesn't always go spectacularly, but you know what? He's great other places. Similarly to Thrain, Gina, the Dark Mystic Witch, also applies dots, but she also sleeps. By which I mean she puts people to sleep. For that reason, she's great in TOA, though she also sees use in places like Steel Fortress because of blocking beneficial effects on skill 2. Next, Janssen, the Dark Viking. Janssen is the J in the BJR5 comp. That's right, he got a whole letter in one of the most impactful speed teams of all time in Summoner's War. Fun fact, he also has the longest skill cooldown in the game. 13 turns before skill ups. Absolutely crazy. I don't know who was cooking with that one, but they went a little overboard. Janssen's making it in the video because it is really important that you at least get one Janssen, so that way if you want to build this team, you can down the line. That's really the only place that he sees play, but he's very important in that one situation. The combo here is that he works well with Belger, the Fire Lightning Emperor. He's the B in the team. Belger's third skill gets more powerful as he gains stacks of knowledge, and those knowledge stacks accumulate as your allies die. Janssen brings them all back with 1 HP, so that way you have a second round of being able to get those stacks. Next, it's Seren, the Dark Harpu. Seren took the world by storm when she did the impossible. Once she's second awakened, she has a team-up ability that natively defense breaks. That's pretty awesome. Before this, you just kind of had to hope that you would pull a unit like Loren who had a defense break available. Most team-up skills didn't do it inherently. But now that hers does, we have a great option for Necro. You can also use her as part of a snipe comp in RTA. The sky is the limit. Well, I should hope so for a unit with wings. Next, Crow, the Dark Inugami. Crow is so good that he's made his way into the Summoner's Way questline as a reward, though it's still worth it to farm the secret dungeon so you can get skill ups for him and then immediately go into Second Awakening. Crow has a brand on skill 3, which will increase damage dealt to the target, and a team up on skill 2. But what makes both of those skills even better is that their damage scales with the number of debuffs on the target. So you'll see Crow just dish out insane numbers, purely because you're just incidentally landing things like slow, defense break, heal block, etc. And those are all just debuffs you can apply with Loren. Imagine once you throw other stuff in the mix. And lastly, it's the Dark Yeti. If you need one for the Veramos fusion, he's here. The Dark Yeti is here largely just as a placeholder to remind me to tell you to check in the fusion hexagram to see if there are any other secret dungeons in there that are crucial ingredients for fusing things like Veramos or Riley. If you want a full list of the monsters that are available in secret dungeons, you can head on over to the craft building. Under the Others tab, you can see the secret dungeon portal option in there, and it'll give you a breakdown of every monster in each element. That's the list, but let me know if there's anyone that you love that appears in the secret dungeons too. Bye everyone, see you next time.